Hi, everyone. I'm Karen McMullen, and I'm a features programmer at Doc NYC. I'm very happy to be here today with the director of Summerwar, Moritz Schultz. Moritz, thanks for joining us, and thanks for sharing your film with Doc NYC.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome. So this film was really fascinating to me. I described it as quietly chilling. I think you did a very good job of balancing or just showing what is happening and letting the viewers come to their own conclusions about what's going on, which is pretty intense. Um, and I was looking up your background, and you do a lot of, action sports and travel pieces. How did you come to do a film about such a intense subject?
Well, I took a keen interest, or I still take a keen interest in Ukraine and what's going on in Ukraine. So the film, the mid-length documentary we did before was also happening in Ukraine. There we did a film about people that live in the exclusion zone of Chernobyl, so around the reactor. And so we made a bunch of portraits about people still living there or working there. And this was in 2016. And back then, this was not far away, like from the timing. It was still very close to the revolution, the Maidan revolution that happened in 2014-15, and the war. And so it was really like the topic of the day, and it was really intense, and it was really close to people's minds and hearts. And so from this experience, I started to follow Ukrainian politics and the society, and I just took like a great interest in it. And also, but as so I feel in a way I feel a lot of compassion for what Ukraine and the people of Ukraine are going through. But as with pretty much any country that is at war, and especially in such a David against Goliath condition against Russia, it's obvious that there are also like forces in the society that try to use it for their own gain. And so there are a bunch of right-wing neo-Nazi groups that try to weasel their way into mainstream politics and get a footing. And so it was really interesting for me to follow this special group called Azov, which has a certain prominence, and to see what they're up to. And so as when I heard about these youth camps, it was pretty clear for me that I wanted to get more into it and understand what is the logic and the mission behind it. And so we went in there and followed our protagonist.
Yeah, you had great access. You had 2 weeks. You were allowed to shoot for 2 weeks in the camp. Can you talk about and you're a student. This is a student project, which is pretty fascinating. So as a student and as a filmmaker, can you talk about how you got that access and what you were allowed to shoot and what you weren't allowed to shoot?
The interesting thing was that we had, once we were in the camp, there were not many restrictions for us to what we can film. So it was quite difficult to get into the camp and to get close to the group. So we did a lot of like groundwork. So we wrote them letters, and we made little videos of introducing us, and then we went to their headquarters in advance and introduced ourselves in person. And there was a lot of forth and back of how we could gain access and what we had to do. So, for example, they proposed that they would give us a translator from their own organization. And at this point we said, no, if you want to just do it like that, there is no film, so we cannot do it. And then at some point they agreed. So we were just really sticking around, I guess. And at some point they let us in. And inside the camp we had actually a lot of freedom, until up to a point where we started to do more of these interviews, which are also included in the film. And there they started to question I don't know. It was not even something secretive or so we did in this interviews, but still they got suspicious somehow. And then we had like a watchdog guy, and so he was, but he didn't try to actually prevent us from doing anything. He was just there as his physical appearance and trying to control the situation just by being there. And so for the last couple of days in the camp, we had like a cat and mouse game. So we tried to, lose him somewhere and go into a room and close the door. And it was not so easy to find the right door then. And so we had like 10, 15 minutes, and somebody would try to distract him from our team, and two of the others would, go somewhere and do their thing. And so in a way it was funny because they didn't take it very at some point they got irritated, but they didn't take it that serious. So it was like it had some sportsmanship in the end. So they were not angry at us. They figured we are trying to do our thing, and they tried to control us. But it was in a weird way. It was actually, we went out on good terms in a weird way. But the most fascinating thing about that is, and the reason that we had to even get this access, was that they don't have that much to hide in Ukraine or in many other countries. It's not specific to Ukraine. So this group is posting their own things on Instagram. So the night this night training they do, which is looking super extreme, this was posted on Instagram instantly. And so many other things this group and the camps do, they are really upfront about it, and they don't have to fear any repercussions for it, not yet.
So they saw this as some free publicity, probably.
In a way they did, yes. They are, I think, I would say that they represent in a way a modern strain of neo-Nazism and right-wing groups in first of all in the way that they try to game certain publicity and certain platforms, Instagram, Facebook, and anything else. They try to game it in their way, and they invite journalists to their camps. They just usually stick around for just 2 or 3 hours, and so it's very different what they get, and this is much more controlled, but they would not close it up. So they want to be upfront, they want to be seen, and in a way they are punching above their weight, talking from the memberships and the numbers they have. They're punching above their weight because they try to use this publicity in a certain way. And this is the one thing I think it's pretty modern, because usually they try to hide in a way, and they don't. And the second thing is that, you can tell that there are different layers of ideology in this camp. You can also see that many things were forbidden to talk about in front of the camera, obviously. But I also think that they are not even inside the camp is so clear about the ideology. I think that they kind of try to grow these kids into a certain ideological level. And you could tell that the kids in the camp, starting from 6 to 16, that they were very different in what they received as ideological background. And once they started to become, older, and like in the 16s, the oldest groups, you could tell that they had already a substantial knowledge about ideological background, like you can see in the film, the runes and, all this like folklore of neo-Nazism was already there then. But, if you would ask our kids, they didn't get this offered yet, so they try to have a certain specific, how far they would go with the ideology. It was very specific on the person and on the age and, what these people would be willing to accept. So they would not, throw it on them at once, which would be a kind of the old way, but rather let them grow into it.
Have the children seen the film, or any of the people in the camp seen Summerwar yet?
Not yet, unfortunately. This is due to Corona, because we since February actually we try to go to Ukraine and meet. We wanted to show it to them in person, obviously, and so we would try to meet with them and show it to them. And at first it was a matter of timing, so we didn't get a it didn't get it scheduled. And since then it's COVID. We wanted to go there in September, and then the Ukraine closed the borders. So no, unfortunately not. So because we still are hoping for a chance to actually be with them to show the film. It doesn't feel right to just send a link and just
Mhm,
wait to see what they're saying.
mhm. I have so many questions. How are there other camps in Ukraine? Are there sports camps or arts camps that the children
Yeah.
could go to? There are.
Yeah,
Okay.
actually, I mean, this is actually a specific background, because in all of the post-Soviet countries, there is a very established camp culture. So you have, for example, Yasmin meets her friend, and her friend goes to Christian camp. And there you have some camps that are more like Boy Scouts, or you maybe even have art camps. I don't know about art camps that well, but there are a lot of camps, and like 99% or maybe 95% of them are completely innocent. I mean, if you consider like a more or less strict Christian camp, harmless, I don't know, that's a you have to, that's a personal matter, but it's not like upfront in violence or in military training and so on. And the thing is, this is part of a post-Soviet culture, because that used to be the case in the Soviet Union already. So they had the pioneers, and everybody went to pioneer camp, and everywhere were pioneer camps. And even afterwards, they, for this reason, they still have like a humongously long summer vacation. They have 3 months summer vacation, and so every parent has to find a way to get rid of the kids, and so they have to go to camp. And this and so the thing is that the interesting thing is that Azov, the organization, is sneaking into this culture, which is really common. And nobody, when you tell them, oh, my kid goes to camp, nobody is questioning this decision, which is already a little weirder. Definitely in Germany, it would be weird, going to a camp for any organization. So it must be Boy Scouts or something. But in Ukraine or in any other post-Soviet country, it's completely normal. And so they are using this niche for their own purpose. And of course, between the majority of the camps and this Azoviets camps, there is a huge difference. There is a huge difference from this militaristic style, from the camouflage they wear, the military training. This is all not part of the usual camps, and it wasn't even necessarily part of the pioneer camps in Soviet Union. So this is even in a way, it's a radicalization when you compare it, ideologically, obviously, but also from, technicalities, it's even further advanced or much different to Soviet traditions. But still, they can use this niche, and they even, Olya in the film, the woman, she even voices this as she says, we found out that there's a niche we can use, and we can promote our ideology, and so we went for it. And this is pretty much, she gives it away, this is pretty much what they did.
Mhm. Well, it was a really fascinating film about a very fascinating phenomenon. Thank you so much for sharing it with us, and thank you for the Q&A. I need to wrap this up. But
Okay.
good luck with the film, and hope to meet you in person one day very soon.
Yes, it's very unfortunate that we cannot be there. I would have loved to be at your festival, and we are really honored that we are part of it. And COVID sucks.
Well said. Thanks, Moritz.
All right, bye bye.